The millionaire secretly followed his employee. The truth broke his heart. Everyone in the city knew who Grant Maddox was, the stern-faced millionaire who never smiled. But what no one knew was that every night, without fail, Grant secretly followed one of his lowest-paid employees. Not to fire her, not to threaten her, but because something about her life whispered a truth he wasn't ready to face. And the night he finally discovered it shattered him. Grant Maddox had built his empire with strict discipline and a cold detachment from people. He believed kindness slowed you down. Emotions clouded judgment, and getting too close to anyone only brought disappointment. He had learned that lesson painfully as a child, when his parents argued endlessly over money until the day they left him with a relative and vanished from his life forever. So Grant ruled his world with logic. He didn't laugh, he didn't trust, and he definitely didn't care. At least, that's what everyone thought. But then came Rachel Walters. Rachel was hired as a junior assistant in his company, quiet, hard-working, soft-spoken, and always carrying a warm smile despite wearing the same worn shoes and carrying a bag that looked far older than her. She never took sick leaves, never complained, and never asked for a raise. Most employees forgot she existed, but Grant noticed her, not because she demanded attention, but because she tried so hard not to. One morning, Grant passed by her desk and saw her typing with trembling hands. Her eyes were red, but she hid them quickly when she sensed someone approaching. Something in that tiny moment pierced through Grant's emotional armor, like a whisper from a part of his heart he thought had died long ago. For reasons he couldn't understand, he began observing her, quietly, secretly. He watched how she skipped lunch most days, how she walked home instead of taking the bus, no matter how tired she was, how she always gave her best even when life clearly wasn't being kind to her. He told himself it was nothing, just curiosity. But curiosity doesn't make a man follow someone home in the cold. Yet Grant found himself doing exactly that. Every evening, he stayed far behind, watching Rachel on her long walk home. She never went anywhere fancy, just a small, cracked apartment building at the edge of the city. Sometimes she would enter a grocery store, picking the cheapest things, counting coins twice. Sometimes she stopped by a pharmacy but turned away without buying anything. Something was wrong. Grant felt it. One night, after a long, draining board meeting, Rachel left early. Grant saw her wiping tears as she stepped out of the building. Something tugged at him, an unfamiliar panic. He followed her more closely than usual, desperate to know what was happening. Rachel didn't walk home that day. She took a detour, straight to a small clinic. Grant froze as he watched her go through the doors. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. Was she sick, hurt, in trouble? Was someone threatening her? His chest tightened with a fear he didn't know he was capable of feeling. He paced outside the clinic for almost an hour until she finally came out, clutching a small envelope of medical papers. Her face was pale, but she still wore a forced smile, like she was trying to stay strong for someone. But the moment she thought no one was watching, she broke. She sat on the sidewalk, buried her face in her hands, and cried. Grant had no idea when he started walking toward her, but he stopped himself at the last second. He wasn't ready to reveal he had followed her. He wasn't ready for her to know the truth, that a millionaire had become invested in the life of someone who barely earned enough to survive. That night, he couldn't sleep. The next day, Rachel came to work as if nothing had happened. But Grant noticed she was slower, weaker, almost fainting once when she stood up too quickly. Panic shot through him again. Finally, he snapped. He called his private investigator, something he had never done for an employee before. "I need everything about Rachel Walters," he ordered. Hours passed like years until the file arrived. Grant opened it, and the first page made his heart drop. Rachel wasn't sick. She wasn't struggling for herself. She was fighting for someone else. Her younger brother, Ethan, had a rare heart condition. Their parents had died years ago, leaving Rachel as the only guardian. Ethan needed regular treatment, including expensive medications Rachel could barely afford. Every extra hour she worked, every meal she skipped, every long walk home, it was all for him. And the worst part, Rachel had been saving for Ethan's upcoming surgery, a surgery she was nowhere close to affording. Grant leaned back in his chair, the truth crushing him with a force he didn't expect. He had followed her believing he would uncover laziness or dishonesty or something he could fix with a warning. Instead, he discovered the heartbreak she carried alone. The next morning, he did something no one had ever seen him do. He walked up to Rachel's desk and said softly, "Come to my office, please." Rachel froze, terrified. She walked slowly behind him, trembling, thinking she was about to be fired. Grant saw the fear and hated himself for every cold, distant moment he had shown her before. He didn't sit when they entered his office. Instead, he turned to face her. "I know about your brother," he said gently. Rachel's breath caught. Her eyes widened in shock, then panic. "Sir, I am sorry. I didn't mean—" "You don't need to apologize," Grant interrupted, his voice cracking slightly for the first time in years. "You should have told someone. You shouldn't have been suffering alone." Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't want to burden anyone." Grant closed his eyes, pained. "Rachel, helping someone isn't a burden." And then he did the unthinkable. He handed her a folder containing approval papers, signatures, and a fully covered payment plan. "The surgery is taken care of," he whispered. "Completely." Rachel broke down, sobbing into her hands. She couldn't speak, but her tears said everything. Grant felt something inside him melt, something he didn't know he still had. For the first time in many years he felt purpose, not from money, not from success, but from kindness. Weeks later, after Ethan's successful surgery, Rachel returned to work carrying her little brother's handmade thank you card. Grant didn't know how to react. It had been years since anyone thanked him for anything that mattered. Rachel looked up at him and said softly, "You didn't just save Ethan. You saved me." Grant felt something inside his chest shift forever. Because in the end, it wasn't Rachel whose truth broke his heart. It was the truth about himself. He had spent a lifetime pushing people away. But one quiet girl with tired eyes had shown him that even the coldest heart could learn to feel again.